Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite subject, cost of living. As you guys can already see on screen, I have an example of what a detailed budget could look like. Now, this right here is my own personal budget for me, my wife, and our dog. Okay, so this is what we spend on a monthly basis, give or take, out here living in Mérida, Yucatan. Now, what you're seeing in the background is Guadalajara. We are actually going to be walking through El Bosque Los Colomos out here in Zapopan, Guadalajara, while we talk about this subject. Now, I'm going to be showing you guys, on and off the actual budget so you guys can also enjoy the view. We're going to just be bouncing off of the actual budget and the beautiful sights to be seen out here in this beautiful park in Guadalajara. Now, as I've mentioned multiple times on the channel, I've told you guys what my cost of living is, on average every single month. Every single month, my cost of living is somewhere around 1,000 US dollars to around 1,500 US dollars. Now, again, this varies a lot, all depending on the exchange rate at the time, depending on whether I have certain emergencies or certain things that I have to purchase that month over another month, and so on and so forth. But there are several staples that every single person out there basically needs in one shape, form, or another. And those include rent, internet, cell phone, water, propane, transportation, the power bill, food, and other expenses. Okay, but for the purposes of this video, we're just going to talk about the basics, and then if you have any other extra expenses, well, then you can just add them on to this. This is just an overview, an example, a guide that will help you decide whether or not Mexico is going to be right for you. Again, there are multiple people out there in the audience that have come out to Mexico before, live out here in Mexico, and they're either going to agree with my budget or they're going to disagree with my budget. A lot of people out there have a larger budget, meaning that they spend a lot more than what you're seeing me display in this episode, and there's going to be a lot of people that spend less than what I spend. But on average, you should be able to live out here normally, again, frugally, just a normal life for around 1,500 US dollars. And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's episode. We're going to go in detail, item by item, all right? And we're going to talk about what these expenses are, how they can, get more expensive, less expensive, and just, go into extreme detail with each one of these items and then some, okay? So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Now, before we get started, I want to mention something that I actually was going to make this video about a month ago, but since the elections happened and we've had a major move when it comes to the exchange rate, I've had to basically redo the video. And so therefore, as you guys are going to see on screen, I'm going to have three different columns when it comes to the cost of living, meaning we're going to have the first column that's going to be Mexican pesos, the second column, which is US dollars, 20 pesos to the dollar, and then 16 pesos to the dollar. And why is this? Well, because again, you're going to find out once you're living out here that the exchange rate is going to constantly fluctuate. Sometimes it's going to be really low, sometimes it's going to be really high, and depending on how the exchange rate is at the moment, well, it's going to depend on how much you're going to spend or how little you're going to spend. When I was first planning this video, it was actually getting close to 16 pesos to the dollar, and a lot of people were up in arms and complaining and upset that Mexico's just getting too expensive. And ever since the recent elections, well, it's actually reversed. And, as of filming this episode, it's around 18 to a dollar. Okay, so 18 pesos to a dollar. And some people are estimating it could go to 20 or higher. And again, the higher it goes, the cheaper it is for you, and the reverse. Meaning the lower it goes, the more expensive it's going to get. Again, you're going to see this on screen with your own eyes, and you guys can make your own decision and estimate as to what your cost of living is probably going to be if you move to Mexico or when you move to Mexico. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is the rent, since this is probably the most important and expensive item on everyone's budget. Now, there's going to be some of you guys out there in the audience that are going to be able to afford to buy a home when you come to Mexico. So therefore, this whole section of rent is null and void. The only thing you're going to have to pay for is property taxes. But as you guys already know, or if you don't know, I'm going to tell you right now, property taxes out here in Mexico are extremely affordable. So you're just looking at hundreds of dollars at the end of the year, not thousands or tens of thousands of dollars for property taxes out here in Mexico. So again, it's a lot more affordable. So we're just going to be talking about rent right now. While we talk about rent, I'm going to show you the old house that I used to live in, and my rent at that house was 6,000 pesos a month. Okay, so that is roughly around 300 US dollars if the exchange rate is 20 to 1. But as soon as it starts dropping, look at how expensive it starts to get. All of a sudden, we went from 300 US dollars to 375 US dollars. Bruh. Now, when we first moved to this house many years ago, basically the exchange rate was around 20 to 1. But right before we moved out of this house, the exchange rate was close to 16 to 1. So basically, it's a difference of 1/5. All right, but look at how much the rent has gone up in just from going from 20 to 1 to 16 to 1. Okay, so this is why obviously the more expensive the rent, the more you're gonna end up paying as the peso gets stronger, aka as it goes lower. Okay, meaning you get less pesos for each dollar. Now, I'm renting a different house at the moment, paying the same amount of rent, and it looks basically very similar to this house right now, which is a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom with a front yard and a large backyard. Okay, nice large kitchen, nice large front area, nice large living room, and so on and so forth. So again, this is just a basic average house. Some of you guys out there might be able to find this house for even cheaper. But again, let's just put 6,000 pesos right now, because that's about the average of what you're going to be paying in rent in one shape, form, or another for a house. For a lot of you guys are probably paying a lot more for a lot more house. But this is what you're probably going to be getting for this price range. Regardless, again, because of the fluctuating exchange rate, you're going to have to choose wisely and make sure that your rent isn't too expensive if you are on a budget. Because again, if you're on a very tight budget, or perhaps you're on Social Security, on your pension, whatever, and the peso keeps getting stronger, and all of a sudden your rent keeps getting more expensive, then you start adding inflation, you start adding other factors, and before you know it, you're not going to be able to afford rent anymore. So again, this is something that you have to, do your homework on and choose wisely. And right now, coming from the USA, you guys already know it's going to cost you like around 1,300 US dollars just to get yourself a small apartment or a room in a house or whatever it is. You're definitely not going to be able to get a large house like this for the same, for $300. It's just not gonna, you're not gonna find it anywhere, or even $400 or even $500. All right, so just keep that in mind. And again, depending on where you live in Mexico, depending on what kind of neighborhood, depending on many factors, you might be able to get an even cheaper house. Or again, you're probably going to be paying a little more, but you're not going to be paying any more than 10,000 pesos. And 10,000 pesos, give or take, runs you around $500. Okay, so just keep in mind that your rent is going to vary somewhere around the lower end, $250, or at the highest end, $500 or $550. Okay, so all things considered, that's still pretty affordable for most of you guys out there in the audience to have a nice house. Now, besides the house, we have other expenses, other important things that a lot of you guys out there are just gonna need. You guys just cannot live without. So for example, the first thing is internet. My internet, I get high-speed internet. You guys already know I do live streams on this channel every single Thursday, and I'm able to be broadcast straight to your home with a very high-quality image and very fast speeds. So I'm not complaining. I'm getting about 100 megabytes, give or take, for 600 pesos, and 600 pesos is around 30 US dollars to 38 US dollars, again depending on the exchange rate. Either way, still extremely affordable to whatever it is you're paying for internet back home. The other expense that most of you guys out there cannot live without is a cell phone. So for me and Christian, okay, so this is 2 cell phones, all right, my cost is around 300 Mexican pesos. So that translates to, again, as you guys can see on screen, 15 US dollars or 20 US dollars, all right, again, depending on the exchange rate. But that's 2 cell phones, okay, for the month. Basically, we each get unlimited calls, unlimited internet, and all that stuff. Now, of course, it's not unlimited. It's, you know, kind of loosely unlimited. But long story short, I get these packages for me and Christian every single month, and I do not run out of data or run out of phone calls or run out of anything, right? That's plenty for me to have, you know, cell phone service, you know, to use Google Maps, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, and everything that, you know, you are probably going to be using your phone for anyways, okay? Now, the next thing that we're going to be talking about is water. So there's 2 types of water out here in Mexico. Water number 1 is the water that you get into your house, okay? The water that you need, you know, to shower, to wash your dishes, to water your garden, and so on and so forth, okay? So that comes to you, again, depending on where you're living in Mexico. They have the local water processing plant, the local water company, and then they'll send you a bill, and that's going to run you around, you know, again, somewhere between $5 to $10 a month. And then you're going to have the drinkable water. So the water that you actually get delivered to your house, or that you have to go and buy at the store, but the big blue jugs with drinkable water, you know, the water that you're going to need to cook, to give to your animals, to drink, and so on and so forth. All right, so that water, you know, every single week I get around 3 to 4 jugs of water, and each one of those jugs, again, varies in price. So somewhere between 20 pesos to 40 pesos, so around $1 to $2 per blue jug. And I get 3 to 4 a week, plus, you know, the water from the city. So the water from the city plus the drinkable water is all going to come to around 550 pesos a month. All right, so that's around $28 or 35 US dollars, again, depending on the exchange rate. Now, before I continue, I just want to give you guys some caveat here. Depending on who you are out there, it's going to depend on what these prices are going to be. Some of you guys might be paying a lot less for water and a lot less, you know, for certain items, and some of you guys are going to be paying a lot more. So just keep that in mind, that this is just a average of what my bills are every single month throughout the year. All right, and for some of you guys out there, it's going to differ. So just, again, please understand and keep that in mind, so that way you're not, you know, out there thinking that your bills are going to be exactly like mine, because they're definitely going to be different. We all are very different, and we all have different needs, wants, desires, and so on and so forth. Some of us want more air conditioning, some of us have a pool, some of us do a lot more cooking, and so on and so forth. So speaking of cooking, well, out here in Mexico, most people cook with propane gas. So basically natural gas. So for me, I went on ahead and I did an average as to, you know, how much propane gas I'm going to be spending every single month. I myself, like most Mexicans out here, we have a big gas tank in the backyard, and we get that filled up every 6 months or so, all depending on usage. So I just literally filled up my gas tank not too long ago, and it was around 500 pesos, 500 something pesos, give or take. And that's for 6 months of use. So again, on average, I'm spending around 80 pesos a month on propane gas, which comes out to $4 to $5, give or take, you know, what the exchange rate is at the moment. So again, it's not that much. It's actually pretty affordable. Now, the next topic that we're going to talk about is transportation. This is also going to vary a lot, all depending on what part of Mexico you're in and what kind of transport you decide to use. So, if you decide to walk a lot, you decide to have a bicycle, you decide to take the bus, the train, and other public transportation, well, guess what? It's probably going to be a lot lower than the 1,000 pesos a month that you're seeing there. But if you are out there and let's say you have a car and you want to, you know, put some gasoline in that car, you got to pay your insurance, which, by the way, insurance is paid here every year, and it's, you know, not that expensive. It's like $150 to $200 US for the whole year. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're just talking about just basic transport. So most of you guys are going to be Ubering, or using some sort of car service to get around, or taxis, Didi, InDriver. There are many options, okay? But let's just say Uber for, explanation purposes here. So if you're going to be taking Uber, all right, you're going to be taking the bus, you're going to be taking a bicycle, walking, and so on and so forth. Well, all these have a cost. So obviously, if you have your own car, you drive a lot, well, that's going to cost you more money. You got to spend money on gas. You're probably going to be spending money on maintenance for the car, the insurance that we talked about, and other factors. Now, if you're on the lower end, meaning that like what I did when I first moved out here, I was on my Chevrolet legs, all right? So I was walking a lot. I was using my bicycle once I got a bicycle and I was able to afford one. So basically, my transport was almost zero. I didn't really spend much money unless I had to take an Uber, to certain places. But for the most part, I even walked to the grocery store. Again, for some of you guys out there that have been watching my channel for a long time, you guys already know I used to live on Paseo Montejo, and I used to walk to Walmart or to El Centro all the time, and I used to carry big heavy bags, full of groceries, back home, because, well, that's all I could afford. I couldn't afford to pay a few bucks for an Uber, so I had to walk, okay? And so therefore, I didn't spend that much on transport. So if you walk a lot, if you have a lot of little tienditas and fruit vendors, vegetable vendors, your meat, your butcher, you have everything around you and you can walk everywhere, well, you're probably not going to be spending much on transportation either. But let's just say for, the purposes of this video, say that on average, you're going to be spending 1,000 pesos a month, which translates to around $50 to $63, give or take, a month, okay, on transportation. So again, if you have a car, it's probably going to be a lot more than 1,000 or around the same. Or if you're taking Uber everywhere, I remember my mom was out here visiting not too long ago, and we were Ubering all over the place, and I spent over 2,500 pesos in a week and a half. I mean, think about that. That's pretty crazy, right? Now, again, we were Ubering a lot more than we would normally Uber because I was here with my mom and I wanted her to be comfortable, and I didn't want to be driving around in the truck and it was really hot and so on and so forth. But anyways, this is something that you really, really have to take into consideration because, yes, Ubers and all these, taxis and, car services are pretty inexpensive compared to back home, but they start to add up. And before you know it, if you're not careful, you could be spending over $100 or even more on Ubers, okay, every single month. But if you are very frugal, if you like to walk a lot, you have a bicycle, and you have other ways to kind of get around, well, you can mitigate this, and it can be a lot less than 1,000 pesos a month, okay? So it could be, just a couple hundred pesos a month, or it could be a few thousand pesos a month. It's all up to you and your transportation needs, okay? But again, this is something that is also very important for a lot of people because, well, at the end of the day, you got to get around, right? And so the further away you are from your basic needs, meaning the further away you are from, the grocery store, where you're going to get your toiletries, your food, your meat, and all the necessities that you need for your home, well, most likely you're going to be having to pay for an Uber or taxi or whatever to, at the very least, come back home with your groceries. But if you do what I do, or what a lot of people out here in Mexico do, and just basically walk a block or two, to just go and get, everything you need for your house, at the little local tiendita, the little local mom and pop store, well, then you're going to be fine. You're probably not going to be spending anything on transport, unless you're taking the Uber all the way to the other side of town to, I don't know, go see a movie or a baseball game or a wrestling match or to see the doctor or whatever it is. You got to remember, at the end of the day, you still have to get around, okay? So just keep that in mind. And some cities have a really good mass transit system, like in Guadalajara, they got a really, really good train system, a really good bus system, and even the Ubers, from my estimation, it seemed like it was a lot more affordable out here in Guadalajara than it was in Mérida. So again, just keep that in mind. The transport is a very important thing. Now, on to the next thing, which is the power bill. Now, depending on where you are, will depend on how much you're going to spend. So if you're living in Guadalajara, for example, you're probably not going to be spending that much money on your power bill. You might be spending money on the power bill during the winter months, perhaps to, turn on your heater, but not during other months. Now, if you're living in a place like Mérida, Yucatan, out here, in the Caribbean, well, guess what? You're going to probably be using the air conditioner even in December. Now, with that being said, it depends on, what your lifestyle is, and depending on so many factors, what this is going to cost you. Now, if you're living out here in the Yucatan and it's very hot and you got to use the air conditioner all the time, well, some of you guys out there have solar panels. Obviously, if you got solar panels, your bill is going to be a lot lower than my bill, for example. All right. So, if you got solar panels, that's going to help mitigate that a lot. Also, if you do not use the air conditioner all the time, well, again, that's also going to keep the bill very low. Or if you live in a colder climate out here in Mexico, like in Guadalajara or Querétaro or Mexico City or whatever it is, well, you're not going to be using that much power all year round, just a few months out of the year. So obviously, depending on where you are, will depend on how much it's going to cost you. Now, I went on ahead and I put on the budget 1,200 pesos a month, because that's basically what my average is, or what the average is for most people out here in Mérida, Yucatan. But with that said, again, there's a lot of people out there that will spend, double, triple, quadruple this a month. And some people out there that spend half of that or even less. In fact, I interviewed someone not too long ago, Mark, and he spends a lot less on power and electricity than I do. He's even cheaper and more frugal than me. Bruh. All right, if you can believe that. But I know a lot of you guys are in that same boat. But there's a lot of you guys out there as well that, constantly showing me your light bill, and it's like, 5,000, 6,000 pesos. And by the way, the light bills out here are every 2 months. So if you get a 5,000 peso bill, that means that you're spending 2,500 pesos a month. All right. But that's on the very high end. And I know some of you guys are going to tell me that some of you guys have even higher bills than that. But again, as I was saying earlier, you got to remember that everyone out there is different, and this is just an average budget, okay? So you guys have to, play with it on your end as well. So let's just say that your electric bill is going to be around 1,200 pesos a month. That's going to be around $60 to $75 depending on the exchange rate, okay? So right there, you guys can see, what your expenses are going to be for rent, internet, cell phone, water, propane, transportation, and your power bill. Basically, all your needs are met. There's only one thing that's missing from this equation, and that is food. Food and toiletries. I like to put all this in the same boat, because a lot of people, they just conveniently forget, or they just forget. I mean, I totally understand that you actually have to buy other things besides food. Yeah. So for example, you got to buy soap, you got to buy toilet paper, you got to buy shampoo, you got to buy, so many other things, bug spray, whatever it is. But there's just a bunch of miscellaneous items that you're going to have to buy every single month that you got to include into this. It's not just food, okay? So with that said, again, depends on who you are out there and how frugal you are, or where you shop, because that's also a very important thing. That's going to depend on what your budget is going to be every single month, or what your expenses are when it comes to food are going to be every single month. So on average, on the lowest end, it's going to be somewhere around 6,000 pesos, okay? But on the higher end, it's going to be 10,000 pesos, 11,000 pesos, give or take. All right, so as you guys can see on screen there, I left that one really wide open, because it really is going to depend on you and what your needs are, and what you purchase, and what you eat, and what kind of toilet paper you're going to use to wipe your butt, and so on and so forth, okay? There's so many different prices on so many different things, and so again, this is very, very individual, okay? Every single person out there, is going to have a different amount they're going to spend every month. But with that said, again, on the lower end, I'm going to be estimating that you're going to be spending around 6,000 pesos. And on the higher end, you're going to be spending, like I was saying earlier, around 11,000 pesos, all right? And again, I'm getting this amount from my own average every single month. Some months I don't got to spend that much. Other months I got to spend a little more. And it is what it is, all right? So that translates, again, depending on the exchange rate at the moment, but let's say it's 20 to 1. 20 pesos to $1, you're going to be spending around 300 US dollars to 525 US dollars a month. Now, again, if the exchange rate is all the way down to 16 to 1, meaning that the peso is extremely strong or stronger, because it can go even lower than that, it's going to be 375 to 625. So you guys can see there, again, as you guys see the whole thing on screen, how expensive it can get as the peso gets stronger. Now, in pesos, my cost of living, okay, just with everything you saw there, is around 15,700, pesos to 20,000 pesos. And some months it can go a little higher, some months it can go a little lower. It all depends. Sometimes, hey, I got to take, Gizmo to the vet. Sometimes I got to go to the vet. Bruh. Sometimes Gizmo, I got to buy him his food. Sometimes, me and Christian have a special occasion and we want to go out. Sometimes, you have emergencies that arise, like your cell phone breaks and you got to buy a new one, and that can go on and on. And so you got to, again, play with the budget there. But just to cover all of your expenses, again, everything from rent, internet, cell phone, water, propane, transportation, your power bill, and food and toiletries. So basically all of your needs are being met. Every single thing that you need, from food to the roof over your head, to the cell phone to call your mom back home, to the power to charge your cell phone, all of these things, plus the internet and all these things. So it's going to be around 15,700 to 20,000 plus, give or take. Now, the peso amount isn't really going to change much, because the only thing that's really going to change that is, well, if we have a little inflation, or there are other factors that are Mexico only related. But as you guys can already see on the chart there, if the peso is 20 to 1, well, that total is somewhere around $800 to $1,000 a month. But the minute that the peso starts to get stronger, okay, and you're getting less pesos for every dollar, look at how much it starts to go up really quickly. Okay, so we went from $800, give or take, to around $1,000. Okay, and we went from $1,000 on the high end to $1,200. So basically, you're looking at a 20+% increase. Okay, so just with the exchange rate not being in your favor. So obviously, the more it's in your favor, the cheaper it's going to be for you to live out here, and vice versa. But at the end of the day, even with the 16 to 1 exchange rate, okay, which is the least favorable, okay, you can still afford to live out here. Again, all my expenses, even at the 16 to 1 exchange rate, at the highest end, is going to be around 1,200, 1,300 US dollars a month. So it is extremely affordable to live out here compared to the USA. Again, in the USA, just for rent alone, okay, I'm just renting a room or a 1-bedroom apartment, I'm going to be paying what I'm paying for all of my expenses out here. It's a big difference out there. Now, of course, you're not going to just want to spend money on your basics and nothing else. You're going to want to, go out on a date from time to time with your, significant other, or if you're single, with some other people that you meet out there. You're probably going to want to do fun activities, whether it's go to the beach, go to the park, go to a movie theater, again, go see a baseball game, a football game. There's a zillion things that you can do out here in Mexico, and that's categorized under fun activities, right? So I'm guessing that you're a fun person and you want to do some fun things with your life, so those are going to cost you money. Yes, there's a lot of things that are a lot more affordable out here. Again, a movie theater is only going to be a few dollars compared to back home. The park that you're seeing as a walkthrough was free. Okay, yes, that's right, you heard me, free. And in this park, we went on horse rides at some point later on, and the horse rides was, $5 US. So everything is a lot more affordable out here than you would, find back home in the USA or Canada or wherever you're coming from. So keep that in mind, but that's going to be additional to your budget. So let's say that your budget is on the high end, okay? Let's say that right now you're spending 1,300 US dollars a month and you have a really bad exchange rate. It's still affordable, and then you're going to start adding things again like dating, fun activities. You're going to put some money away in your savings for emergencies, because you're going to need that Again, you gotta, knock on wood, nothing happens, but you never know. So you should always save some money for a rainy day, because you might have to go to the doctor. You might have to go to the hospital. You don't know. Okay, and some of you guys are going to have health insurance, and some of you guys are not going to have health insurance. Some of you guys are going to have traveler's insurance. Some of you guys are not going to have traveler's insurance. And if you have insurance, you got to add that to the budget. That's an extra additional cost, okay? So, but either way, you should have some money set aside for whatever it is, all right? So, again, fun activities, savings, emergencies, personal habits. Some of you guys like to smoke out there. Some of you guys like to drink. Some of you guys like to smoke and drink. Some of you guys like other libations. Whatever it is you like to do, everyone has some personal habits out there. Some of you guys are addicted to reading books, and you guys want to, buy books from Amazon every week. Whatever it is, you also got to put that in there. Again, some of you guys have to go see the doctor on a regular basis. Look, even someone like me, I'm a young and healthy individual out there, but I still got to go see the doctor from time to time. From time to time, I got to get brand new glasses, right? I got to go see the dentist. And even though these things are extremely affordable, like a pair of glasses is going to cost you around, 25 to 50 US dollars. Going to the dentist is going to cost you around $30, maybe $50. Again, give or take. For some of you guys, again, we've talked about going to see a doctor. You can see a doctor for as little as a couple dollars, like $3 to $4, to go see a doctor. Or if you're going to go see a specialist, you're probably going to be paying $30. Whatever it is, the point I'm making is that you got to budget for other things besides your basic needs, okay? For some of you guys, that are coming out here to Mexico on a tourist visa and eventually going to get your residency visa, through the R&E program or through other programs out there that we've talked about multiple times on the channel. Well, you got to also put that in your budget. If you got to go on a visa run, that's going to cost you money. Once you can qualify to get your temporary residency or permanent residency, that's also going to cost you money. And so on and so forth, okay? So there's going to be a lot of other expenses that you have to, think about, and you have to add to your budget. So with all that being said, you already know, as I was saying earlier, each person out there is an individual with individual needs and costs and so on and so forth. So only you know what your expenses are going to be. You can estimate by watching a video like this and seeing this budget that I have on screen at the moment. This is going to help you. It's going to be like a guide to help you get to the promised land. But at the end of the day, you got to, use something like this very loosely, because a lot of these things are going to depend on you personally. Some of you guys will not want to live in the home that I showed you earlier. Some of you guys want to have the air conditioner on all the time. Some of you guys want to go out to restaurants on a regular basis and don't want to eat from the taco stand, the little taco truck, all right? Some of you guys, want to go see the really expensive specialist doctor and don't want to go to Dr. Simi. Again, some of you guys have personal habits that can get pretty expensive. Not everybody wants to drink the cheap whiskey. Some of you guys want to, buy the really expensive Blue Label or whatever it is. So you got to keep all of these things in mind. And there's a bunch of other things that I haven't even mentioned here that you might also have to consider. So if you got kids, well, you already know it's a whole litany of expenses that come with kids. All right. So you're going to have to, put that into your budget. If you have medicines, medications that you like to take, whether it's something that you're getting from the doctor or you're taking supplements, or it's, holistic medicine, herbs and spices, whatever it is you decide to purchase for yourself, you got to add into your budget. In fact, with that said, why don't you guys out there in the audience, share down below what, are some expenses that I have not covered here in this video are, because maybe I can help you guys out, or if I can't help you out, maybe somebody else in the audience that looks at your comment can comment on your comment and give you more information on certain other things out there that are just going to be part of your budget that are just not on this list. There's a lot of you guys out there that need to have your insurance. There's a lot of other people out there that have, again, like kids, or they have other expenses that you have to put in that budget. So this is just to cover your basics. Out here in Mexico, you can actually live on around 1,000 to 1,500 a month pretty comfortably and have all of your needs being met. If you're in the USA, I really don't know of any kind of situation in which you're going to really be able to live comfortably on 1,000 to 1,500 a month, and it's going to cover everything and all your expenses. And I'm talking to a lot of you guys out there that are already retired and you have a set budget, a set amount that you're getting every single month. And I know a lot of you guys out there are struggling. A lot of you guys have to, get your medication, and you have to chop your pills in half, and you got to eat basically cup of noodles and cans of beans and depression style meals, just to make it through the month. All right. And for younger folk out there, this is great as well because, well, again, you guys know my story. I came out here with $1,500 left to my name and nothing, okay? No kind of job or any kind of opportunities or anything like that. I just came out here because I wanted to do my YouTube stuff, and I needed a place that I can have a roof over my head and buy some food and be able to afford to live very modestly, very frugally while I was, getting back on my feet. So, for a lot of you guys out there that are entrepreneurs or, are starting a new business or, have a different kind of lifestyle, you guys can come out here with, a certain amount of money. Plan ahead. Again, I've made multiple videos on on this topic as to what it is you need to do. In fact, you can watch them at the end of this video. All right, I've made many videos on everything you need to know and everything you need to prepare for when moving to Mexico. But with that said, basically, no matter what your age is, no matter what your financial situation is, no matter what it is you got going on over there, you can come out here and live comfortably. You can live out here a good life, okay? You can have a better quality of life out here in Mexico. Again, it's not just about the cost of living, but so many other things that, well, we talk about here on this channel on a regular basis. So, with all that being said, I want to give a big shout out to all my members out there, on Patreon, on YouTube, every single one of you guys out there that's constantly contributing to the show in one shape, form, or another, whether you're leaving a few bucks here or there, whether you're watching a commercial, an ad, in between the videos, whether you just leave a like. Again, you don't have to give me anything, all right? As long as you're watching the video, that's more than enough, and that's plenty, all right? So, but if you want to go above and beyond, well, please subscribe. Please hit the like button. Don't forget to share with a friend, an enemy, a frenemy, whoever, random people, whatever it is you want to do. You're definitely helping out the show. And you're not just helping out the show, but you're helping out every single person out there in the audience that is also in need of information like this in order to make that decision that they've been meaning to make for a very long time, which is to move to Mexico. And so now, again, they have a video like this and others so that they can use as a guide to help them make that final move a reality. In fact, if you want even more information, I encourage you guys to go check out my website that has tons of free information, no matter what part of Mexico you're moving into. Also, if you are so inclined to have a conversation with me, some of you guys want to have a one-on-one personalized consultation with me, well, you can also book your consultation on my website. You can find a bunch of digital nomad jobs and just so much awesome free information on my website, not just on my YouTube page. So in between my YouTube page, my website, all the information that I'm constantly providing you guys in one shape, form, or another. All of you guys in the comment section that are always helping out other people, answering their questions, the Facebook group I have, and this little mini ecosystem that I have here. We are building a nice little community to help all of us out, to help each other out, so that we can have all the best tools necessary to have the best possible experience when it comes to, this ginormous move, which is moving to Mexico. So with all that being said, guys, please don't forget to check out these videos that are linked at the end of this video so you can have more information on how to get your residency, the top 20 tips that you're going to need when you're coming out here to Mexico, and so much more. So please check out those videos. And with all that being said, you already know the deal, guys. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit the bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please Stay awesome. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.